COVID-19 has forced many of us to reckon with death, whether it's our own, the deaths of those we love, or the overwhelming death toll of complete strangers. We're not good at talking about dying. Changing that is something Gail Rubin has made her life's work. NYF correspondent Megan Kamerick talked to Ms. Rubin this week about an upcoming online event designed to get people talking about death.
Gail, thanks for joining us. The Before I Die Festival is an extension of your ongoing work to get people to talk openly about death, about what they want for their lives before they die, and to think about their wishes for the end of their lives. How do you see this year of COVID reinforcing your message?
In the news, all we are seeing is sickness counts and death counts. So mortality issues are really becoming top of mind awareness. Whereas generally, as we're going about our lives, we're trying to pretend that we're not going to die, but in fact, we do have a 100% mortality rate. So acknowledging that we are going to die and planning ahead for how we might want to be treated should we become seriously ill, and planning ahead for what our disposition preferences are and talking to our loved ones about it is becoming, I'm hoping, a little more socially acceptable. There's such a taboo about discussing death, but I've been doing this for 10 years now, and my motto is, just like talking about sex won't make you pregnant, talking about funerals and end-of-life issues won't make you dead.
You've been in this world for quite a while. What kinds of shifts are you seeing in how people plan funerals, how they think about end-of-life issues?
Well, with COVID, we're definitely having a huge impact on the funeral business. We have to be socially distant. Funeral homes have been offering video streaming of services, either in their chapels or even at graveside. The cremation rate here in New Mexico is close to 75%. So a lot of people are choosing cremation, and the COVID pandemic is actually accelerating that choice as people are finding, oh my God, we have to do something with our loved one who has died. And very often, many of them are choosing cremation, but it hasn't necessarily been discussed as, is that the choice that that person would have wanted to make? That's why it's so important to plan ahead, to figure out what this costs. It's a consumer issue as well as just something we all have to deal with. So if you haven't talked about what you might want or made arrangements to purchase a burial spot if you want to be buried, these are very important elements that, if God forbid somebody just ups and dies and no plans are in place, that's going to put your loved ones in a world of hurt.
I lost my own mother recently, and like thousands of others this year, we have delayed a full funeral or celebration of life until our family can all travel safely. But I see that one of the sessions in the Before I Die Festival is all about holding virtual memorial services. What are these, and how are they evolving in the pandemic?
Yes. So like we're doing today, many memorial services and gatherings are being held on Zoom. So we have Mandy from Keeper. She is, her grandmother actually died earlier this year due to COVID. And as part of what she does with online memorialization, she was able to pull together photographs and stories from families, just like what you would do with an in-person memorial service. But given the issues with travel and getting together physically close to people, there are ways that we can make that online memorial service meaningful and moving and satisfying. There's certainly a lot of discontent at the fact that we can't hug our loved ones and be there close to them. Frankly, I don't want to get on an airplane anytime soon. So kudos to you for being able to, be a part of your mother's memorial service, and I am so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. Well, we had a small sort of thing, but the larger one, who knows? But you're offering very practical information, such as why you need an advanced healthcare directive and issues around medical aid in dying, which I believe is an issue that's going to come up again in the legislative session in January.
Yes, yes. Representative Debbie Armstrong is going to be carrying the it was called the Elizabeth Whitefield End of Life Act, I believe, the last time. And the whole idea of if you are diagnosed with a terminal illness, if you're on hospice, if you're eligible for hospice and you're afraid of a rough ending, the Medical Aid in Dying Act would give you the opportunity to be able to have medication that can help ease into death. It is not physician suicide, it is medical aid in dying.
There's also a session on managing our loved ones' possessions before and after they die. I just went through this with several of my sisters after my mother passed. Why is it important to actually make plans around this?
Well, you can have a lot of conflict over objects that are imbued with emotional meaning. And so it's important to downsize while you're alive, and share those family heirlooms and maybe distribute those. That can help reduce conflict. But yes, that panel is going to be very interesting because we've got 4 people who have written 3 books between them about different ways of managing our loved ones' possessions. We also have a woman with estate pros here in New Mexico, Karen Hyatt, that's her business, is helping people manage the estates of loved ones who are either downsizing to a smaller living arrangement, maybe they're sick, maybe they've died, and yeah, you've got all this stuff. You don't know the value of objects, which could be very valuable, or maybe you think something's very valuable that actually isn't worth very much at all. So it's important to go through your stuff and literally pare it down and pass along those items that have meaning.
This festival is always timed to coincide with Dia de Muertos. It's a lovely tradition. Families visit cemeteries, they build ofrendas or altars with pictures of loved ones, maybe put things they enjoyed during their lifetime. The idea is this one time of year, our departed loved ones are closer to us, perhaps visiting us, and it's such a different conception of what death is than mainstream Western or American culture. How is your festival evoking some of these ideas?
Well, in fact, we do have a video on our festival website, beforeidinm.com, that tells you how to build an ofrenda. One of the funeral directors with Daniels, his brother died actually 20 years ago, and we recorded a video with him showing how he puts together the ofrenda every year that honors his brother. So to actually welcome the spirits of our deceased loved ones back, it would start Halloween, actually, when the veil between the worlds is the thinnest. And by setting up these photos and objects that our loved ones liked or loved in this lifetime, it's a wonderful time to stay connected with our loved ones. So often in the grieving process, people might say, oh, you're processing your grief and you'll move beyond it. No, our connections with our loved ones continue even after they've left their bodies. And this idea of Dia de los Muertos, where we welcome them for a visit, and in fact, as the doyen of death, I actually welcome my loved ones back on the anniversary of their death. Something you might consider doing is setting up their photo and lighting a 24-hour candle. In the Jewish tradition, it's called a yahrzeit, where we recognize a special anniversary or the anniversary of the death or their birthday. Anytime you want to just specially connect with our loved ones, you can do that by lighting that candle and sharing their photo. So it really is. We're not going beyond our relationship with that loved one. We're extending it and celebrating it.
Gail, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always enjoyable to talk with you. It's always so interesting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Megan.